Night shifts change how places feel. Buildings that are busy during the day become quiet and almost empty. But working through the night means noticing sounds or movements that don't have clear explanations. In this video, you'll hear 3 scary horror stories that happened during night shifts, moments that started like normal and slowly turned into something far more unsettling. If you enjoy horror stories like this, like the video and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel even more, super thanks are always appreciated.
I've spent 12 years in industrial logistics. People usually imagine warehouses as dusty rooms filled with cardboard boxes, but high-end pharmaceutical distribution is a different world. It's clinical, silent, and governed by strict regulations. I took the night auditor position at a facility in Reno because the pay was high and I preferred the solitude. My job was simple on paper: reconcile physical stock with digital manifests between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. The facility has a dedicated cold zone in the sub-basement. It's kept at exactly 34 degrees Fahrenheit to stabilize volatile biologics. Most of the movement is handled by automated tracks, but once a month, a human is required to perform a manual count of the hazardous disposal bins. These are sealed. Titanium canisters designed for contaminated materials or expired experimental batches. 3 weeks ago, I flagged a weight discrepancy. Canister 404 Alpha was logged at 180 pounds when it left the local medical center. When I checked the internal scale before it was loaded onto the outbound truck, it weighed 215 pounds. A 35-pound gain inside a sealed, pressurized unit is a physical impossibility. I documented the error and moved on, assuming it was a sensor malfunction. The following night, my supervisor, Miller, came down to the floor. Miller usually stays in the glass booth upstairs, watching the monitors. He looked unwell. He told me the scales were calculating atmospheric pressure incorrectly and instructed me to override the log. In this industry, you learn to spot when someone is covering for a mechanical failure, but Miller's behavior was different. His hands were shaking while he handed me the override codes. On Tuesday, the automated track jammed. The error occurred in the dead zone, a corner of the sub-basement where structural pillars create camera blind spots. Protocol dictates that. I called maintenance, but the repair crew was 40 minutes away, and I didn't want to fall behind. I grabbed a headlamp and went in manually. I found the canister that caused the jam. The lid was slightly skewed, not fully locked into the pressure grooves. The smell hit me immediately. It wasn't the sharp scent of industrial chemicals. It was organic. It was the heavy metallic scent of blood and decay. I pushed the lid, expecting to find a spill. Instead, I saw a human arm. It was severed cleanly at the shoulder and wrapped in surgical plastic. There was a barcode tattooed on the inner wrist. It wasn't a medical waste item, it was a harvest. I realized then that we weren't just moving medicine. The facility was a clearinghouse for a black market organ and tissue operation, utilizing the legal cover of pharmaceutical transport. The waste trucks leaving at 4 a.m. weren't going to an incinerator. They were going to a different kind of client. I heard the heavy thud of the vault door closing. The silence of the cold zone became absolute. I turned off my headlamp and crouched behind a stack of crates. Footsteps approached heavy rubber-soled boots. Miller was walking down the aisle, but he wasn't alone. He was accompanied by 2 private security contractors. They weren't carrying clipboards. They had heavy-duty canvas bags and plastic restraints. Miller's voice was a low, desperate plea. He called my name, saying they needed to discuss the inventory reconciliation. I watched them through a gap in the crates. They weren't looking for a conversation. They were clearing the aisles with tactical precision. I managed to slip into the service elevator shaft and climb the emergency ladder to the ground floor, bypassing the main security desk. I didn't go to my car. I knew the plate numbers would be flagged. I walked until I reached a diner 3 miles away and called a contact in another state. I haven't returned to the facility, and I haven't contacted the local authorities. I don't know who is on the payroll. Yesterday, I received my final paycheck via direct deposit. The digital pay stub included a comment in the notes section, "Inventory reconciled. Don't let the balance drop again." I looked at my own wrist this morning. I'm not an employee anymore. In their system, I am just unallocated stock, and they know my blood type.
You have to understand something about the graveyard shift at a 911 dispatch center in a rural county. It isn't constant adrenaline. It isn't non-stop screening or high-speed chases. For the most part, it's a test of endurance against silence. I've sat in this chair, under the hum of fluorescent lights and the drone of the server racks for 20 years. You get to know the rhythm of the night. You know that the bar fights happen at 2:15 a.m. You know that deer collisions happen at dawn. And you know that the hours between 3 o'clock and 4 a.m. are the dead hours. That's when the world is still. That's when the strangest things happen. On November 12th, the center was quiet. It was just me and the new girl, Jessica, who was asleep in the break room. I was staring at my monitors, watching the map of Pfaff, the county, when a call came in at exactly 3:11 a.m. The board lit up red. What caught my attention wasn't the call itself, but the classification. The system flagged it as a Phase 1 landline. I sat up. In 2026, residential landlines are practically artifacts. The copper wire infrastructure in our county hasn't been serviced in a decade. Most of the old poles are rotting or have been stripped by copper thieves. I clicked the headset on. 911. What is the address of your emergency? There was no immediate answer, just static. But it wasn't the clean, digital silence of a dropped cell signal. It was the heavy, crackling hiss of an analog connection. It sounded like the line was being dragged through gravel. 911. Can you hear me? I repeated, leaning into the mic. Through the static, I heard a sound. It was rhythmic, sharp. It sounded like someone tapping a fingernail against the hard plastic of a receiver mouthpiece. Then a pause. Then the sound of breathing. It was wet, heavy breathing, close to the mic. Not panic breathing, predatory breathing. Slow, controlled. My eyes drifted to the location data on my screen. The system had triangulated the hard line. Source. The address popped up. 4421 Old Mill Road. My stomach dropped so hard I felt dizzy. I knew that address. I knew it better than my own apartment. That was the house I grew up in. My parents sold it in 2004. It had been foreclosed on years ago, and last I heard, it was a gutted shell sitting on an overgrown lot slated for demolition. There was no power there, no water, and certainly no active phone service. Who is this? I asked, my voice tight. We have units in the area. That was a lie. The nearest deputy was 20 minutes out. The clicking stopped. A voice whispered through the static. It was small, trembling, and high-pitched. "He's in the hallway." He turned off the lights. I froze. The voice was a little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old. But it wasn't just any child's voice. I knew that lisp. I knew the specific cadence of the fear. "Honey," I said, my training kicking in despite the cold sweat breaking out on my neck. "What is your name? Are you alone?" "I'm hiding," the girl whispered. "He has the long knife, the one from the kitchen." I closed my eyes. A memory I had buried under 2 decades of therapy, and medication slammed into me. June 1996. I was 8 years old. A drifter had broken into our house on Old Mill Road. He had cut the power. My father wasn't home. My mother was in the kitchen. I had hidden in the hallway closet, huddled under a pile of winter coats, listening to the intruder move through. The house. He never found me. The police arrived just as he was trying to kick in the closet door. But the girl on the phone, she was saying the exact words I had said to the dispatcher that night. Words I had never told anyone else. I typed in the dispatch code, my fingers shaking. "Deputy Vance, I have a 10 to 33 in progress at 4421 Old Mill. Suspicious activity. Potential minor on site. Proceed with extreme caution. Deputy Sarah Vance's." Voice crackled over the radio. "Copy. Dispatch. I'm nearby." "Isn't that the old Miller place?" I thought that was condemned. "Just check it out, Sarah," I said. I have an open line with the subject inside. Copy. ETA 5 minutes." I went back to the phone line. "I'm still here," I said to the girl. "Help is coming. Stay where you are. Don't make a sound." The girl didn't answer. Instead, the background noise on the call shifted. I heard the distinct creak of the 3rd step on the main staircase. I knew that creak. I used to skip that step when I snuck out at night. "He's coming up the stairs," the girl whispered. Her voice was distorting now, warping, like a tape recording being slowed down and sped up. "Sarah, step on it," I radioed. "I'm pulling up now," Sarah replied. I could hear the gravel crunching under her tires through the radio. "Place looks dead, dispatch. Windows are boarded. Front door is hanging off the hinges. There are no power lines connected to the house. There's no way there's a phone inside." "I'm listening to it, Sarah," I snapped. "Just clear the structure." I heard Sarah get out of the car. I heard the click of her racking her shotgun. Going in. This is where it got impossible. On my headset, in my left ear, I heard the phone call. I heard the sound of the front door being kicked fully open. In my right ear, on the radio, I heard Sarah kick the door open. The sounds were perfectly synchronized. "I'm in the foyer," Sarah whispered over the radio. "Smells like rot and wet drywall. It's pitch black." On the phone line, the girl whispered, "He's in the foyer. He smells like the swamp." "Sarah," I said, my voice trembling. "The caller. The caller is reacting to you. Is there anyone else there?" "Negative," Sarah said. "House is gutted. No furniture. Just trash. He's walking toward the closet." The girl on the phone whimpered. "I'm approaching the hallway closet," Sarah said on the radio. My heart was hammering against my ribs. "Sarah, stop. Do not open that door." "Why, dispatch? Did you hear something?" "Just wait for backup." "I can clear it," she said. I heard her hand touch the doorknob. On the phone line, the static surged. The girl's voice vanished. In its place, a man's voice spoke. It was right against the receiver, intimate and horrifyingly clear. It wasn't the drifter from 1996. "She's going to find it, Tim," the man said. He used my name. "Who is this?" I screamed. "Sarah," I yelled into the radio. "Get out. It's a trap. Opening now," Sarah said. On the radio, I heard the closet door creak open. On the phone, I heard the closet door creak open. "There's nobody in here," Sarah said, her voice confused. "Dispatch, the closet is empty." "Wait, there's something on the floor. It looks like a tape recorder." The man on the phone laughed. It was a low, dry sound. "Rewind, Tim." Then, a piercing screech of feedback blasted through both my headset and the radio. It was so loud I ripped the headset off. I heard Sarah scream over the speakers, a sound of pure terror, followed by the wet thud of something heavy hitting flesh. Then the radio went dead. The phone line went dead. I sat there in the silence of the dispatch center, gasping for air. Patrol units arrived 10 minutes later. They found Sarah Vance unconscious in the hallway. She had been bludgeoned with a piece of rebar. She survived, but she has no memory of who hit her. She just remembers the closet opening and seeing a face in the darkness that shouldn't have been there. They searched the house. They tore down the walls. They found nothing. No squatter. No phone line. No tape recorder. But here is the part that keeps me up. They pulled the logs from the dispatch server. They wanted to trace the call. The recording of the 911 call exists. It's 8 minutes long, but it's not a recording of a girl. It's a recording of me. For 8 minutes, I am talking to myself. I am answering my own questions. I am whispering the girl's lines in a high-pitched mockery of a child, and then switching back to my normal voice to respond. The police think I had a psychotic break. They think I lured Sarah there and hurt her, even though I was at the console the whole time. I was cleared because of the security cameras in the center, but I lost my job. I live in a different state now. I don't have a landline, but sometimes when I'm driving late at night, the Bluetooth in my car will activate on its own. It connects. To a call, there's no number, just static. And through the speakers, I hear that rhythmic clicking, and then my own voice from 30 years ago whispering, "He found us, Tim. He found us."
People think junkyards are creepy because of the wrecked cars, the idea that people might have died in them. But that's not it. It's the sound. Metal expands and contracts when the temperature drops. So all night long, you hear these groans and pops like the cars are trying to get comfortable. I worked security at a massive salvage yard in Ohio. It was 40 acres of stacked steel. My job was simple. Sit in the gatehouse, watch the cameras, and do a perimeter round once an hour to make sure kids weren't hopping the fence to steal catalytic converters. It was 3:15 a.m. in February, freezing cold. The ground was hard as iron. I was on my patrol, walking down what we called the canyon, a long dirt path with stacks of crushed cars 20 feet high on either side. I was nearing the processing area at the back of the lot. That's where the crusher is. It's a massive yellow beast, a hydraulic press that turns a sedan into a cube the size of a washing machine. We shut everything down at 5 p.m., lockout-tagout procedures. The keys to the crusher are locked in the foreman's office safe. I was about 50 yards away when I heard it. The low, electric hum of the crusher's generator. I stopped. The sound was unmistakable. It's a deep vibration you feel in your teeth. I radioed dispatch, but we just use a third-party answering service, so I was basically talking to myself. "This is Unit 1. I have equipment running in Sector 4, investigating." I walked closer. The floodlights were off, so I was using my flashlight. The beam cut through the dark and hit the machine. The conveyor belt was stationary. The jaws were open, but the engine was definitely idling. I walked up the metal stairs to the control platform. The key slot was empty. The ignition was off, but the machine was running. That's electrically impossible. I reached for the emergency kill switch, a big red button on the console. I slammed my hand down on it. The machine didn't stop. In fact, the RPMs ramped up. The hydraulic pumps hissed, loud and angry. I backed down the stairs. That's when I saw the car. There was a dark blue Honda Civic sitting on the intake ramp. It hadn't been there when I did my rounds at midnight. It was in decent shape, not a wreck. No license plates. The conveyor belt jerked, a metal-on-metal screech. The Civic moved forward 6 inches. I shined my light into the car. The windows were tinted dark, illegal tint. I couldn't see inside. Hey! I yelled, banging on the hood with my baton. Is anyone in there? Nothing. The conveyor lurched again. The car was now only 5 feet from the crushing jaws. The jaws began to lower. Just a test cycle, opening and closing like a mouth waking up. I tried the door handle of the Honda, locked. Then, the car started rocking, not the wind. The suspension bounced violently. Someone was in the back seat. They were thrashing around. I smashed the rear window with my baton. It took 2 hits. The glass shattered and I cleared it away with my gloved hand. I shone the light inside. There was a guy in the back seat. He was bound with zip ties, hands and feet. Duct tape over his mouth. His eyes were wide, bulging with terror. He was screaming against the tape, a muffled, desperate sound. I reached in to unlock the door, but the child locks were on. I couldn't open it from the inside. The conveyor moved. The car jerked forward. The front bumper was now under the lip of the crusher. I scrambled to the front door, smashed that window. I unlocked it. I grabbed the guy by his collar and tried to haul him over the center console. He was dead weight, panicking, kicking. The machine roared. The top plate of the crusher began to descend. It wasn't a fast drop. It was a slow, inevitable grind. "Come on!" I screamed. I got his upper body out the driver's side door. The crushing plate made contact with the hood of the car. The metal screamed as it folded. The windshield popped, spraying glass everywhere. I pulled with everything I had. The guy fell onto the dirt with me. We scrambled back, crawling on our hands and knees. The sound was deafening. The roof of the Honda collapsed. The entire car was flattened in seconds. If we had been in there. We lay there in the dirt, panting, watching the machine finish its work. It compacted the car, then the jaws lifted. The conveyor spit the cube out the other side. And then, just as suddenly as it started, the machine shut off. The hum died. Silence returned to the yard. I looked at the guy. He was sobbing, shaking. So hard he couldn't stand. I cut the tape off his mouth with my pocket knife. "Who did this?" I asked. "Who put you in there?" He looked at me, his eyes darting to the darkness beyond the floodlights. He whispered, "He didn't put me in there. He told me to get in." "Who?" "The operator," he said. "There's no operator," I said. "I'm the only one here." He shook his head. "No, the tall man. In the uniform, he's standing right behind you." I spun around. Standing on top of the crushed cube of metal, 10 feet in the air, was a silhouette. It was wearing a security uniform. My uniform. It raised a hand and waved. A stiff mechanical wave. I didn't wait to see its face. I grabbed the guy and we ran. We ran all the way to the main road. Police found footprints on the machine platform, but they didn't match mine. They didn't match anyone's. The boots were size 16. They never found the guy in the uniform. But the next night, the answering service got a call from the gatehouse. Extension at 3 a.m., no one was working. It was just the sound of hydraulics hissing over and over again.
And that's all for tonight. Remember, the most terrifying monsters are the ones that look just like us. The ones who might even live right next door. If these stories serve as a good reminder to trust your instincts, then show your support and like and subscribe. Hitting that bell means you'll get a warning before the next nightmare begins. Sleep well, if you can.